Good morning. It's the first day of me breaking down what's going on. So I've just got a great song in my headphones. So unlike a lot of people that work, that have a job, that have a wages job and things like that, I have a business. And, we try and do things in business. And what I've tried to do the last couple of years was provide an affordable dance mirror, one that moves around so you can take it with you, and work out a way to do that the best I can to provide those people that want to do dancing with an asset they can kind of keep and take with them and move and use in different ways. Maybe they can hire a hall one night a week instead of an entire commercial building, whatever. Just give them more options to provide a dance class. And so I took the steps to provide a product that would help those people. And it was going pretty well. It was an interesting experience. It took a long time. Like, there's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of, I already knew a lot about the glass industry and things like that. But I learned a lot about logistics and marketing, all the things that I have to do. But the one thing, this is what this video is going to be about, is so basically I no longer feel confident in investing in that project. And it's a weird reason why. It's actually to do with my reputation. Unfortunately, after this pandemic, there was a whole lot of material put out about people that maybe didn't want to participate in a pharmaceutical intervention. That for very intense reasons, which I will probably talk about in the future. That's just a thing that I do not want to ever do. In my personal life, this is nothing to do with yours, but in my personal life, my family and my personal well-being has only really been negatively affected by pharmaceuticals. It's my complete experience from top to bottom in lots of different ways that I would love to map out. But as a consumer or a free citizen, that choice for me to interact with those industries in the way that I want to is extremely important. And it never really reflects on anyone else's decisions. It's just purely to do with mine, and then extending out from that, other people that may have that as a strong instinct within themselves. But the point I wanted to make this morning is that, unlike if you have a job, if you get fired or you quit or you leave that job stops. But unfortunately, in business, we take on some weird little things that we have to do. So once I made that decision to remove my own personal funding and commitment and energy and vision and drive and all those things that are required these things don't just manifest out of the air. They're a slow, steady process of action and money spent and investment and things like that. And unfortunately, because of the damage to my reputation, I just don't feel confident in making that decision anymore. It's, when you're in a retail, your reputation, your personal integrity, and more importantly, the public version of that, because I'm not responsible for that. I am to a certain point, but once, unfortunately, if a ideological shift happens in society and you end up being, in that group, and I think it'd be interesting just to maybe candidly video, do some random interviews at some stage where I kind of, pretend to be someone who's still quite angry at anti-vaxxers and then just get real-time live video of the people describing how they think about people that didn't want to get the vaccine. And then what I thought I might do after that is compare that to the material, the promotional material that was released by the government and other industry, things, and then just see how comparable they are, and then maybe get an argument going that unfortunately the damage to my reputation based on the public health measures mean I can't, I have a fiduciary responsibility to myself and to the other trustees and beneficiaries of my business that I was pursuing. And I just can't do that anymore, unfortunately. I would love to. There was some really interesting kind of doorways opening to different technological connectivity and things like that, and maybe even some sustainable production methods in there as well. But unfortunately, all of that has to stop, which is okay because I'm going to do this for a bit. But what I was going to say is that, unlike people that have a job, I now have to still keep working, because I put a lot of work into this business before I tried to go down this route of this particular product. And really, that is salvageable. The position I'm in is at a loss, but for me personally, because of some my personal situation, it's not a complete loss. I can actually adjust all this back down, and I'm going to do what's called, I'm just going to put it all in a little holding pattern. I'm just going to put it on the shelf as it is, kind of like a time capsule, just stuck right there, just out in the open, as like a little bookmark for why and how and what went on during this period. But to do that requires a lot of work. So what I'm going to be doing for the next however long, probably a few months, is publicly doing that. I'm going to publicly break down where I am, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and in a show of solidarity, I suppose, and maybe an example to some people around, because there's a perception that people in business are just kind of rolling in money and that they're, better off and they have everything easy and they're just ripping people off, and there's these perceptions run through society, and for some reason they stop when you get to a certain level and everything just goes quiet. So I thought it would be interesting to actually in real time see somebody on their own money, in a way that is aligned with their ethics, salvaging what's left of their business after a reputational attack like the one that's just happened. And remember the whole time, it's important, this is a really important thing to remember if you decide to go along on this journey with me, is that this is all being done. This is like a job. It's like you have a job. This is like my version of that, except I'm not getting paid for it. There is an amazing pressure from people who are not understanding the situation I've been put in. And I also have to try and project into the future and try and figure out where I can take those skill sets that I developed and reintegrate back into a way that is, has a clear road in front of it, that doesn't look to be coming in contact with any type of discrimination. So that's going to be interesting. And this is my first episode, vlog, podcast, whatever you call it. And so I thought I'll just quickly, I'll be full honest here. Like this is this is where I'm at the moment. I had to kind of just plonk here. This is my father's house that he left me. And a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, you got left the house. That's a long story on its own. It has a lot of detail and things that, a lot of people don't immediately think about when they hear of someone in the situation that I'm in. And yes, it is a better situation, but things are, things is a big circle of life and situations. And if you were to scale things up, it's not as straightforward as that, especially the entire story. But yeah, we'll get into that in the future. So this is, I'm sleeping on the floor. I've been here for about, I think about 4 weeks, because there was a point where I made the decision to do this, and I had to immediately sort some kind of dire things out to kind of salvage where I was at. Because I work when I do things like this, I get things done. I get them done however I can do within the law. But it's being an entrepreneur. It's like you're doing things however you can. And so because I'd gotten to a point, and I'm not perfect. There are better ways I could have done this, but basically you make a decision and then you go to the next decision and you try and keep going. And it's, it's all well and good to say, oh, you could have done it like this from here. It's like, yeah, I live and I learn and I get better and I do things. But never have I ever made a leap that I know within an acceptable amount of time, I can't completely tie up all my commitments and do that. I always have a parachute, like a strategy for if it fails, which is massively important. And it's getting lost in everything. It's actually getting lost with a lot of wages people at the moment, because they're not projecting into the future. I actually consider having a job, especially a decently paid job, as an amazing privilege. And it is a situation that it's almost an unnatural situation to kind of to be in a system where you kind of week to week know there's going to be money there, and have simple kind of thing. You can go here at this time, you go here at this time, you do this thing, like stuff that's like, I personally, I obviously had things that made me not, like those environments, I get a bit like antsy, because I have certain personality traits that make me want to change things for the better, and I have weird, like, my enthusiasm and like just general attention, everything kind of flows on a up and down kind of ocean that makes what is really, that works for a lot of people, this everyday structure, I don't and never have really fitted into that as well as other people, which you can, any ex workmates or or employers, or huge range of people I've had experience with will testify to. They'll be like, yeah, he's very good, he does this, but he's not exactly the best at consistency, or just mainly it's a time issue. I don't fit into those time things well. So I've, for a long time now, supported myself in my own way that does work with that. And I did that for a lot of years, even, supporting a family, which is, I'm proud of. Like, I'm proud that I've did that, because it's not easy. There's a lot of people that have certain traits that I have that are unable to fit in at all. Like, so the fact that I actually managed to do that for so long, with like a good reputation, good, all these things that are important, I somehow figured out how to do that. I'm proud of that. Because it could have been so different, you know what I mean? I could have been just a dependent person that's relying on handouts and things like that. I've never taken any handouts. I've pretty much never received any government money, not directly. And that includes during the entire pandemic. I took no payments, nothing. There's absolutely nothing that I took. I had a period a long time ago where I got into trouble, mainly, I would say, to do with lack of education in the field of, personal finance, which is almost completely, absent from any public education. And then got myself in a situation a long time ago where I had making lots of money, trying to figure out how to be a dad, all these things, in a weird, actually quite hostile environment at quite a young age. I was just trying to figure out what to do, and got in the situation. So I ended up with a huge tax bill, and I paid all that off. It took me 12 years or something like that. It took fucking ages. I never went bankrupt. I paid every single cent that I owed back. And I did that with my own business. And again, that's something I'm proud of. I didn't, throw it all in the bankruptcy wood chipper. I maintained my commitment, and I tried to pursue a business that is what I believe to be an improvement. So yeah, that's all we can really do. But I suppose that's the main thing I wanted to just touch in this episode or this video, is that when people make decisions that are, I always think, because I'm doing these videos and I do music videos, I have an inbuilt kind of awareness that in the future there's going to be a lot more transparency within things, with businesses, or anything really. It's just going to be the way things are. And so I've known that for a long time, and I've actually, it's partly a disadvantage, but then I see it on the long term as being an advantage, because right now, if I was doing dodgy, weird, borderline criminal, I don't know, strange corruption type deals right now, and I'd got myself in this situation, I'd have nowhere to go. I'd have to just quietly, off in the background, screw people over and kind of do that in a way. And so this is a temporary retreat, a temporary, submission to the overwhelming conditions I've been put in. But in the back of it, it's also like, well, you can't do this. Anyone that's trying to be in this space, you can't do this same thing, because you probably have something to hide, or you probably are operating in a way, and you might be over invested and in an unstable, unbalanced, unprotected model that normally may be able to be navigated your way out of, but if there's a precedent of publicly doing that, then that's almost like an onus for people in that situation to repeat that same social model that has been laid out, because people may start to just expect that. And so, yeah, I'm taking that step to do that. And I believe it's within my legal rights as a citizen. I think it's an interesting look into something that you might not have seen before. For me personally, there's a few things. Like, I'm a bit of a slob sometimes, and also I'm quite organized, but I also have a fair bit of chaos. And so for me, there's a little bit of like embarrassment because it's unorthodox, or because it's like, you know, it doesn't look like that perfect manicured garden Google or Facebook offices, or even, you know, the Parliament buildings and things like that. It's not that, because it's a startup. It's a rough and ready one man expedition into trying to do something, and so it doesn't look pretty, but the details are in there of how and why it is in that situation. So that'll be the thing. It'll be a long process of documenting that, in a way to just, yeah, I'm doing this, and it's a hell of a lot of work. And I may as well get something out of it. And that's what this is about. This is, you know, this is my way of taking a bad situation that was outside of my control and potentially turning it into a positive. And that will assist me, like, with morale, because it's one of the main things is, if I say I've been here for a couple of weeks, trying to get my head around what I have to do, trying to get in a position where I can do the things I need to do without falling in a heap on the floor. And by doing the way I did that was by falling in a heap on the floor. Yeah. And that's part of me wants to keep that as a secret, or as something that I'm not going to talk about. I'm a big tough whatever. But that's craziness. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't show the true situation. It doesn't, and don't get me wrong, there's both. It goes back and forth, because it's like, it's falling in a heap on the floor, but then knowing that you're going to have to go and do this thing, which is also hard again. There's a lot in me that just wants to go, make it all stop, make it all go away, make it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do this anymore, anything, which is what a lot of people do when they leave jobs. And you can do that when you leave a job. I can't do that within this without completely destroying my, hard-earned reputation in this industry, in this state, in this town, and all this whatever. This is my only way to publicly redeem what has been taken from me. And so that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, it's not meant to be an attack on the way anyone else lives. It's not meant to be, a high horse kind of thing or anything like that. I just literally feel like I need to actually document this, potentially for legal reasons, potentially for like future, opportunities, anything. Because if I don't, it will just vanish. And then the words can be implanted by whoever else wants to implant those words. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to take the opportunity to put this down. So yeah, sleeping on my old mattress on the floor. There's 2 mirrors there that were I got provided that had dodgy fucking mirrors, shitty fucking crap mirrors that fucking disintegrated within about 2 weeks. Which these are some of the problems that you come across. So when you go and do that, when you buy that product for a long time, product's all good. You start pushing through and you buy a product, and then the product that you get isn't the product you've been getting. That's so common at the moment in industry that it's not even funny. And so that opens doorways of like, whoa, who's the person dealing with the customer? Who's the person in this thing? How am I going to do that? Like that's these are new pitfalls that exist in small business these days. They're getting worse. And it's getting so bad, like some products, it's like the bare minimum. The bare minimum of anything is coming through. And I'm the one looking at the customer. I'm the one taking the customer's money. So it looks like this is all me. And that just going forward for someone who's looking at doing long-term brand, like customer-based business, that is just something that made it hard. But, that's one of the many things. And I've seen that everywhere. I've heard stories about that existing everywhere. It's a pretty common problem at the moment. In every kind of material, in every industry, everything is experiencing this phenomenon because there's a pinch going on. So people are trying to expand their margins. And yeah, it's not particularly anyone's fault. It's just it's a supply chain worldwide phenomenon going on now that's very hard to navigate when you have the level of relationship that we're at. So basically, if I look forward to doing a long-term branded company that has good customer service, all those things, everything that I've set out to do, it's like something I can't control. And every job then potentially comes a point where all that investment, all that work I've done can be destroyed by something I can't control. And so in the interest of that, these are why I've had to tactically make these decisions in order to do business in a sustainable long-term way. And yes, so I'm going to use the resources I have, and I'm going to rearrange everything I have into a way that I can tie up the loose ends of what I attempted, get back to a baseline, reassess the new conditions, the new environment, the new landscape, what I'm seeing around me, and then decide how to make the next step. And I don't know how long that's going to take. I'm doing it as quickly as I can this is the main thing. I'm doing this on no money. I'm doing this on no money while it's costing me money in an unknown, tumultuous ocean of a business world. And yeah, I'm not sleeping in a palace on silk sheets. I'm in a close to 100-year-old house that's falling to bits, sleeping on the floor, trying to deal with the borderline, complete stress, mental overload, while being also coming out of a period where I've been portrayed as basically, the boogeyman. I don't know. like the Grim Reaper. I don't know. Like, yeah, there's some really bad perceptions out there. I can't wait to actually start candidly trying to get some that captures some of these, like, oh, these fucking anti-vaxxers fucking should be shot in the street if you were me, or they should, oh, they should have strung them up on a fucking whatever the hell, you know, I'm sure is floating out there in certain things, just unawares that someone might be coming in and trying to capture that juicy groupthink lynch mob mentality that was perpetuated by some of our, like, literal leaders of our country. I think they're interesting bookmarks in history. You know, I think they're really, those sound bites will echo through the ages in a global society where we're coming to terms with the darker sides of humanity. So yeah, day one. Look at this. I started getting the paper just because I find it interesting. The way that they steer the narrative of what's going on generationally. They stratify the population into, you know, controllable nodes, and they do that using the media that they were most trusting in. Yeah, that's really interesting. I noticed some, I've learned a lot about placement of content, subconscious kind of direction, misdirection. It's an interesting art form, and I'm not bagging it out at all. I'm saying what I see, and I'm kind of saying, yeah, cool. Like, I understand those things. Those things exist everywhere. And I can see that there's a lot of, you know, good coming from the use of those techniques. It's not all, it's definitely not completely biased. I was skeptical, but I've had a good look. It has, I can see the trajectories, all those things. But as a new type of operator within this business world, and as a generational kind of, Apollo 11 kind of level leap that we're making into those things. I'm doing that with respect to what was before me. From now on, I'm not in a hurry. I'm not, I'm not looking to do this quickly or disrupt any things in a way that's too dramatic. But I am just setting my clear intention to what I am intending to do over a long period of time, to just give everyone full awareness, so it's fully there. And that it's like if you have a timeline that then everyone's fine. But that is the timeline going on, and so and I am going to go down this trajectory, and I'm going to continue going down this trajectory, and so that gives anyone who might be in direct contact with this, they just know, because I'd want to know. It's like if someone was building a a tower next to you, you'd want to know. It's like there may be benefits if someone built a swimming pool in your area or a gym or something. You might be like, I don't want that there, but then you might be like, this might be an opportunity for me to go to the gym and get fitter and all these things. So it's a bit like that. And I figure if I do it publicly and in an open way, then everyone can just know, because I've got nothing to hide. I am just interested to see how this can go. And also it's the only choice I've been left with. And so I have come to terms with that. I've found out a way that I can do that, maintain motivation and maintain positive outlook, and try and salvage some type of work-life balance, which has completely disappeared for the last year and a half, which again I'll get into. This has affected every area of my life in ways that are horrendous. So this is my opportunity to relieve myself of the self-imposed pressure to operate at the level I was attempting to operate at, and just give myself a longer timeline. And to anyone, if anyone has gotten through to here, there was not many. There's I think there's 4 or 5 people. It's 4 or 5 people that I have seriously kind of, and this is again, I fully understand how fucked up what I did was. But basically you were either going to get a call or you were either going to come to the terms that you weren't going to get your product because of the way I did it, or you were going to get a phone call saying you weren't going to get your product because the person who was making your product blew his brains out in the back of a van. And that is a confronting statement to make. That is a but that's what this was. So if there is any, and again, my personal responsibility, I never did anything that within a sufficient amount of time, very small amount of time. If I had to work these debts off, it would take me and still provide, it might take me 2 years. If I went bankrupt, they would disappear and you would get nothing. There's all kinds of things within a sufficient amount of time. And in my head, I was like 6 months. I know people are buying products right now with 6-month wait lists. Cars, motorbikes, furniture, you name it. It is almost industry, complete economy standard right now, that there are 6-month waiting periods on a lot of products. And so my defense of my action is that I would not have done, for me personally, 6 months. If you make a deal that goes in this environment right now, and they take 6 months to return your deposit, but you still get your deposit back, you need to be so understanding and thankful for that. That applies to anyone. That applies to someone who's got a house, a car, anything. Because the unfortunate truth is that 80%, I would assume, 80% of money that is out there in deposits right now potentially has the chance of just completely vanishing into thin air. In everything, based on what I see coming down the track. And so 6 months, full deposit, full whatever, full return, full refund, you haven't lost a cent, anything, you've just, inconvenienced you for that period of time, again, with sincerest apologies from my behalf. I'm not doing this as this isn't my model of business. I wouldn't have been in business for the amount of time I was in if this was the way I operated. And I have lots of people that will vouch for the fact that I've never been, this isn't, there's always weird little single case situations that are, complicated. This isn't business as usual as me. This is like, boom, righto, I can't do this anymore. How can I do this in a way that's morally, whatever? Okay, just stop, starters, stop, get your head back. Will you be able to get their money back? Yes. Are you actually in a terrible thing? No, you're not. You operate in a safe way. This is personally hard for you, and personally it crushes me because it's a failure. But you're okay. You're not a criminal. You're not a crook. You're not thing. You just have to do this, and you're going to be able to do it. And that took me a couple of weeks of sitting there day in, day out, looking at where I'm at, thinking about how I'm going to deal with it. Knowing that unfortunately there's no quick solution that's going to just fix all this. It's like, no, you have to go and do this complicated thing that's and you have to stop the things you were doing unable to do that and see, and then just trusting that I can do that is what I've been doing. And so this felt good. I think it was all right. It's long. They're going to be long because I'm filling this 42 minutes with a lot because it's like a diary and it's quick. This is how I can quickly do this. This is an evidence as far as I'm concerned. It's a document of this period. It is, and it does make me feel better. My goal for the next 2 days is to come out of a very defensive position, very hostile, very because I've been in that for over a year and a half in defense of my decisions, and realize that the time for that, thank God, has come to an end. And now this next time is an explanatory time, and this next time is a time to re-enter society from who I am, which is, happy, nice fucking person. I love my family. I'm generous. I encourage people. I push myself in lots of different ways. And getting back to there in an open way whilst, publicly showing what this looks like. Because there's going to be a lot of this going on, unfortunately. Because I've been in business a long time, I know how to look at businesses, and almost every business I'm looking at out there is going to be in some trouble. I operate in a way that's incredibly nimble and kind of it's actually almost impossible for it to go broke. And I pushed it this time, but I'm still not, do you know what I mean? I can still do it. For me, this is a huge, painful, but that's because I don't use I'm not going to use huge debt, weird instruments to do things. It's not how I do shit. So I set my guidelines on how I'm going to do business. So you might be $4 million in debt and you're about to write that all off to bankruptcy and go on that journey. I set my guidelines for how I do business, and it's the way that I respond to that is based on my guidelines and my framework. It's not a competition. me being in this situation is the same as someone losing fucking $400 billion, whatever it is. It's because, you got to do it like that. I think we've got to get out of this, like, debt-fueled warfare game, because that's what it is. It's like, if you're using massive leverage debt to try and squeeze as much money as you can out of people by providing them with the worst possible product at the highest possible margin, that is bullshit. Capitalism doesn't have to be like complete piracy, and won't be able to be complete piracy within this world that we're going into, because you may act like pirates. You aren't fucking pirates, right? There are pirates out there who will just fucking expose you, because that's the move. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much there's so much fucking room for you to just do that. Hey, you're doing this, you do this here, you do this here, this money goes here. You're allowed to observe those things. And you're allowed to write about them, and you're allowed to, something like, I'll do an hour. I'll do a fucking hour. The funny thing is, I want to do an hour. I want to, and eventually I won't be doing these by myself. I'll be doing them to, I don't, this is just what I have, so I have to do this, but I'd rather be talking to someone else, and I'd rather be talking about something positive, and that's where I'm going to steer this into eventually. But just in the short term, I'm going to, whatever. So what was I going to say? I've lost it. Saying something about if you're a pirate in the industry. This just is the new landscape. And so if everyone adjusts accordingly, see, one of the things, like, my suppliers, or I don't know, other people might be pissed off on what I was trying to do. It's like, if I wasn't being actively just stuck in a little dark corner, this has the potential of just raising the entire industry and putting it into a new place in a way that's amazing. And the reorganization of that supply chain and demand leading content, it's like there will always be disruption within those, within the macro, but you can't protect. This is kind of the unions and things, they have a place, I suppose, but you can't have both. If you're literally out there supporting strike action and unions and that kind of mentality, whilst also demanding climate change and new technologies, then those two things together are really bad. So bad. Because you just can't have both. If, the unions, they think they're doing the right thing, it's like, you know what we need? We need unions of small operators that are disruptive in industries. Operators, people that are putting their fucking shit on the line to actually do stuff. Because that's where the change is going to come, in both of those fields, which is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I didn't get everyone to go on strike. I'm like, hey, I built something better for this huge group of skilled people
where we all own this together and we all, can steer this in the way that we know is best, since we're the professionals that are dealing with the products, and just flip it on its head. And we can do that in one go. I'll make those phone calls. I'll have those meetings. I'll sit down. I'll raise the funding. I'll do the whole lot. And that is, that's the way to go. It's like, if you want to be a nurse and go do strike action union things, like, you work for our medical system is basically a government funded entity that is so inefficient and it's insane. The last time I went to a hospital, I couldn't believe it. I'll go in there. Why is there security doors on a hospital? Am I allowed to go in there and document if I blurred people's faces out and got fucking signed waivers? Can I document the inefficiency and just complete weirdness that's going on there? Because it's a shop. You got a shop, mate. You got a shop where you get people and you sew them up. You give them a little beat. You give them a little fucking blood pressure. You give them a little paperwork. All the things you do. You're just a shop. You just provide a thing, and it's a government thing. I'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb and show you how fucking shit it is. You know what I mean? So don't go. You can't have both. You're like, what? You want to whinge and unionize, and you work for the government. And you want to tax me in a environment where I can't even compete with anyone. That's communism. That's balls out straight, 100% straight to the wall communism. And you just fucking did it at gunpoint. So where are we? You know what I mean? That's what I'll be assessing over the next couple of weeks. Publicly, in a way to, just respond, secure myself into where I'm at. Maybe there can be, who knows? I have no expectations for this because they're silly. They're silly to have. I do this for me. I do this as whatever because I need to. I do it. That's what this is. A lot of information in here. I'm sure some of you are probably lost. I'm sure some of you are probably like, what the fuck is he on about? But it doesn't matter. It's rough, ready, straight from the hip, straight go. And I'll call it a day now. It's 42 minutes, 43 minutes. This hairline is things you've got to deal with. Nah, it's not that bad. But thanks for tuning in. I will do one of these tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.